Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie opens with very calm cemeteries. Suddenly, a police car breaks the silence, driving down a very long road that seems endless. Inside the car are two officers. The first is a sergeant, and the second is a young officer who is holding a long rifle. Both of them get out of the car slowly and begin to enter the forest. The place looks strange. The forest is full of fog. Suddenly, they find a hunter's hut, like a small shrine, with a fire still burning in front of it. The sergeant says, "It's clear someone was just here." They look around and find a dead squirrel. Between the trees, the sergeant hears a heavy but quiet sound. "We can see you. Don't try to hide." And indeed, a man appears, hiding. The sergeant says, "We just want to know about the stolen chickens." The man suddenly pulls out a rifle and shoots. The young officer quickly draws his rifle, but the sergeant says, "Wait, let's try to talk." He calmly tries to speak to the mysterious man, but the man suddenly disappears into the trees, as if he vanished. The sergeant says to the officer, "Let's go, this is bigger than we thought." As they return to the car, a strange shadow appears behind them. The mysterious man shows up again, and the events begin to take a completely different turn. Driving back to the city, the sergeant and the young officer are silent, until the officer says, "It's 8:30 hour and the sun is still shining." The sergeant sighs and says, "Don't worry, but this is not normal at all." At the same moment, the mysterious man they met in the forest is wandering alone. As he walks, he finds an ant colony running in every direction as if trying to save themselves. In the car, they get a call from the female officer at the station, but the call is suddenly cut off. The sergeant tells the officer, "Give me your phone, try calling." The officer looks at his phone and says, "No signal," and the clock stopped. The sergeant says, "Okay, turn on the radio, maybe we'll hear something useful." Instead of news, they find a strange song playing on every station. The song is repeated in an eerie way, and wherever they go, gas station, restaurant, the song is still playing. In the restaurant, the farmer, who looked angry, was sitting drinking his coffee. It was clear that he was upset because of the chickens he lost. He said to the waitress, "Turn off the radio." The waitress responds and turns it off for a bit, but as soon as the farmer leaves, she turns the radio back on. Then, the song is interrupted by very strange news. The Earth is experiencing strange phenomena. Its rotation is unstable. The people in the restaurant are in shock. At the detention center, the TV is on in front of three youths, two girls and a boy, watching programs. But as soon as the officers come in and tell them to go to bed, strange lines start to appear on the screen. Suddenly, a terrifying image appears at the end. At the gas station, there's a nerdy guy in charge of the place. He's turned the station into something like a toy store for kids, with things that catch the eye. The kids are just hanging out, having fun, until the delivery guy arrives with a new shipment of collectibles. At the same time, the mysterious man from the forest is still collecting strange mushrooms and muttering to himself. In a nearby motel, a worker and his wife are watching a TV program about animals that have suddenly become aggressively violent. The farmer discovers that all his dogs and cows, even the animals that usually endure anything, have left and run away. At the police station, the sergeant is looking at the body of an old woman. The body was supposed to stay at the funeral home, but the person there was so strange that they decided to move her to the station. When the officer and the young officer left, the sergeant stayed, focusing as he looked at the corpse. In the restaurant, there was a bit of a discussion between the worker, the waitress, and the cleaning lady. The worker left, and the girls kept praising him for being a respectable man. At the same time, in the funeral home, that woman was there. Her hair was white and she was holding a katana, thanking the golden statue with full concentration. After she finished her rituals, she started looking around. The mysterious man who lived in the forest noticed something very strange. Lunar waves started hitting the area, as if awakening the dead again. And indeed, the first two zombies in the city appeared because of this strange phenomenon. Events turned terrifying when the zombies decided to start their day by entering the restaurant. The waitress was about to leave, but one of them suddenly attacked her and bit her neck, and that was her end. The second zombie, not wasting any time, went straight for the cleaning lady who was sitting in the restaurant. The zombies began to devour their victims, but suddenly, they smelled coffee and drunk it. The chef at the police station woke up to a phone call. When he and the officers arrived at the restaurant, they were in shock. Bodies scattered everywhere, blood everywhere, and the victims had suffered a brutal attack. The officer saw the scene and finally said, "This is either wild animals or," and the chef finished, "zombies." That statement made the atmosphere even more tense, and doubts started to become real. At the same time, three teenagers decided to travel through the city and stopped at the gas station, joking with the nerdy young man working there. They asked him where the motel was, and he told them the address. The strange woman holding the katana appeared at the police station. She entered calmly and said, "Where are the bodies? I need to see them. The officer replied and said, the bodies are here, but no one understands what is happening. The sergeant and the young officer decided to move around the city to warn people about what happened in the restaurant. They moved around the city to warn people about what happened at the restaurant, going from street to street to alert everyone. On the way, the young officer started asking, what if a zombie comes now? The sergeant calmly replied, if you hit the head, it's over. The same advice the strange man was giving to the townsfolk as he prepared himself for the worst. Meanwhile, the three teenagers at the motel started noticing something wasn't right. They locked the doors at night and told each other, if anything happens, we're not opening the door for anyone. In one terrifying night, graves started to open, and death of all ages returned to life. At the motel, the worker opened the door to see what was happening, and suddenly a zombie grabbed him, making him the first victim. At the police station, the old corpse lying on the table suddenly stood up. The chef tried to hit her in the head, but his shot missed. The young officer rushed in and cut off the corpse's head. In the funeral home, the strange woman holding the katana was preparing a corpse and putting makeup on it. Suddenly, the corpse opened its eyes and rose from the dead. Without thinking, the woman grabbed the katana and cut off its head in one swift move. The farmer, also a zombie, entered his farm and tried to strangle him with his beard, but the farmer managed to finish him off and blew him up at the last moment. During the night, the nerdy guy at the station and the handyman at the hardware store decided to lock their doors tightly, but the attack was on. They used all the tools they had to execute their zombie chopping plan, mercilessly tearing them apart. At the police station, the chef and the officers were looking at the city from afar. The officer was full of tears and said to the chef, tell me this will pass. On the other side of the city, the mysterious man saw something very strange, a huge flock of crows flying in the sky. In an epic scene, the strange woman with the katana didn't spare any zombie in her path. She was cutting off their heads one after another. The chef and the officers saw her from afar, and the chef said, that's extraordinary courage. This woman needs to come with us. And indeed, the katana-wielding woman entered the police station. The chef said, you're a real hero. We need you with us. She replied, I'm here to help, but I'll meet you at the cemetery tonight. There, the truth will be revealed. The night was growing more terrifying, and the chef with the officers decided to patrol the city. As they walked, they discovered something very strange. The zombies weren't just eating people, but they were also thinking about their old lives. Zombies playing tennis at the court, zombie children looking for toys in the street, as if they were trying to live the lives they had lost. On the other side, the farmer was busy at his own shootout. Zombies were attacking his farm endlessly, but he grabbed his rifle and killed them all. The officers decided to stop at the motel. The young officer decided to went down first to explore the area. As soon as they entered, the three teenagers sitting in the motel were already done for. The officer had to make sure they didn't come back as zombies. The young officer grabbed a knife and started cutting off their heads one by one. But when he got to the girl, he suddenly found a CD next to her with the name of that strange song on it. At the police station, the woman who holds the katana was sitting in front of the computer, typing on the keyboard trying to crack codes or send a secret message. The officers returned to the car and started moving through the city again. They weren't sure what they were looking for. While driving, they saw the first two zombies, the ones who had killed the women in the restaurant, sitting in the middle of the street holding coffee. After a while, they stopped in front of the hardware store. There was a terrifying crowd of zombies around the door. The sergeant looked and said, the nerd is inside. I don't know if they're still alive or not. The officers started thinking of a plan. Inside the gas station, the nerd and the handyman were barricading the wooden doors as fast as they could. The back door started shaking. With the last knock, the door opened and the zombies came in. The nerd and the handyman grabbed a hammer and a drill, but they knew their chances of survival were almost non-existent. In the forest, the mysterious man was watching the farmer, who defending his farm by shooting zombies in the head. But suddenly, the zombies started gathering around him. In a single moment, the farmer was overwhelmed and became their meal. Strangely, the mysterious man was watching and said, the heavenly justice finally got him. He thinks I am the one who stole his chickens. On their road, the car stopped suddenly at the cemetery. It turned out a zombie's arm had gotten stuck in the wheel and stopped the car from moving. The young officer, with strange calmness, told the chef, it will all be over soon. The chef exploded at him, saying, shut up! The female officer, who couldn't take it anymore, heard the voice of an old woman calling her. It turned out to be the voice of her deceased grandmother. Full of emotion, she opened the car door to see heaven, but what awaited her was something completely different. On the other side, the officer's red car was driving by the woman who holds katana, and a zombie woman who looked like a model caught her attention and tried to take a selfie. But without thinking, the woman cut her head off in a second. The kids who had escaped from the detention center saw the scene and said to each other, someone help us! But they knew they had to keep running in the zombie-filled city. The sergeant started noticing something strange. The young officer was very calm amid all the chaos. Suddenly, the spaceship appeared above the cemetery. The zombies, as if hypnotized, started moving away from the police car and heading toward the light coming from it. The woman who held the katana boarded the ship, and the scene was filled with mystery and magic. The mysterious man was watching everything from afar with his binoculars. He saw the chef and the young officer trapped among the zombies. But both of them grabbed their weapons and said, "If this is the end, we'll finish it like heroes." The sun was still late, and the threat was still growing. And at that moment, the film ended. The name of the film, The Dead Don't Die. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on the notification. See you